Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another episode of This Week in Master Duel, the series where we cover, well, what happened in the last week in Master Duel. We do it every week, usually around Friday or so, and we have a lot to talk about this week, both in and out of client. There are some weeks where it's a little bit slow, and we usually spend most of the video just looking at tournament results, which we're still going to do today, and I do still think that is always worth doing, seeing what's doing well in the tournament meta, and not just focusing on like rank ladder meta, right? But no, today we actually have quite a bit to talk about, again, both in and out of the app. So as always ever, we're going to start by looking at in-client notifications, then we'll see some leaks. We have a new usage and win rate, report to look over, and then we'll see some tournament results, which we have a lot of from the last week here. So we're going to start by going up here to notifications, and yeah, this is the big one here. Upcoming Forbidden and Limited List update. I say this is the big one. This is probably one of the more significant things we'll talk about, but at the same time, it's also kind of not. I'll go ahead and show you what I mean here. By now, you've probably seen this 3-card list update. Yeah, only 3 cards getting moved on this Forbidden Limited List update coming up here. It'll go into effect on what does it say? Usually it says here, doesn't it? Yeah, February 7th. Here we go. So probably right around the time the new selection pack comes out, and also if I had to guess, around the time that we'll be getting the 2-year anniversary stuff. Events will all be starting probably around this time as well. So all right, let's see what we got here. Cards to be limited. Just 1 Bestial Saronir. Cards to be semi-limited. Just 1 Labyrinth Chandragalier. Cards for which the limit on the number of copies will be lifted. Again, just 1 Conquistador of the Golden Land. Let's start up here with the limit of Bestial Saronir. I do think this is a pretty interesting hit. It's not one I necessarily disagree with either. The Bestial monsters, I don't think it's any secret how powerful they are. Indeed, both Magnum Hut and a Druistorm came into the game at 1. And the Bestials, as we've talked about before on the channel, even this season, tend to be pretty meta warping whenever they enter the metagame. It's not just the fact that they are able to effectively handle a lot of light and dark decks almost entirely by themselves as far as like disruption goes, and also the fact that they act as a body on the board, an extended body on top of the disruption that you get there. But it's also, of course, the fact that the Bestials are also a bit self-feeding in their presence in the meta, and what I mean by that is, like, you know, it starts with light and dark decks being good, which they pretty much always are, but if light and dark monsters want to be in the graveyard, Bestials want to banish them out, right? But beyond that, if a lot of decks start being on the Bestials, then it becomes even better for you to be on the Bestials too, because you can banish the light and darks that your opponents try to target with their Bestials with yours, and then you can summon your Bestial and effectively stop theirs from hitting the field. So we saw this in the tier limit format. We saw it a lot in Dragon Link meta. The Bestial, I will say the usage rate of Bestials has been on the decline, I've noticed, at least from what I've observed, pretty much since Dragon Link got hit. But of course, we still have Branded going strong, as well as, you know, naturally there are still a number of decks in the meta that are hurt by Bestials. Branded, Mathmech, being chief among them. Monodium's like kind of up there. Monodium's also one of those decks that, you know, occasionally will play Bestials purely as disruption tools, as opposed to a deck like Branded, which, you know, obviously will use the Bestials as disruption tools, but also definitely just wants them as part of their strategy anyway. So what do I think about Saronir going to 1? What does it affect? How good of a change is this? The big hit to this will obviously be Branded Despia, right? Indeed, while we've mostly seen Branded Despia be a 60-card deck, you know, this season, and especially in tournament builds, I don't really think that's going to be the case moving forward, because despite being a deck that typically plays 60 cards, Branded Despia actually does not have that many things it really wants to mill with grass. And Saronir was like the big one. Saronir and Despian Tragedy, right? You want to mill a Saronir to the yard to put your Branded either Fusion or Retribution in the yard, and then you can use Quem or Why can't I think of the other big one? Oh, Albion, main deck Albion, to put the other one, again, Retribution or Brand Diffusion, whichever one you didn't send to the yard, and then wheel the Brand Diffusion back to hand. So I think with Saronir at 1, that means that 60 card is probably not the way to go with Branded Despia moving forward. I could be wrong, I'm not a branded expert by any means, but again, with Saronir and Tragedy being like really the only things you really, really want to mill, and now Saronir is at 1, I just have a hard time seeing that being worth it. So I would expect moving forward that Branded Despia will go back to a more 40 card list pretty much all the time, as opposed to being on a 60. This also does, this is another hit to Dragon Link too, which like that deck cannot catch a break right now. And I think Dragon Link, even after this hit, and currently in the meta right now, is in the same spot that Tier Limit was in after Merle got banned, right? Where people are just assuming, oh, this deck got hit a lot of important cards got hit, so this deck must be bad, unplayable right now. Dragon Link, while a far cry from Tier 1 where it was before, is definitely far from unplayable as well. I think it's a pretty solid upper to mid rogue deck, like at worst. But nobody's playing the deck. Nobody's playing Dragon Link. Even a lot of the experts like Trishula have kind of moved on to other decks. But Purley, I think, is in a similar spot where I think it's fine in the meta. I think it definitely still can see a lot of competitive success. It's just that nobody's playing it. Which, again, a lot of people will assume that, oh, if nobody's playing a deck, the deck must be bad, right? Wrong. Very, very wrong. Very, very wrong. Very, 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 very wrong. We see this all the time in retro formats like Goat and Edison, where the actual best deck of the meta was totally undiscovered for not only the duration of that meta, but for years and years and years and years afterwards. So, yeah, I can very confidently say that at any given point in time in Yu-Gi-Oh!, there are highly, highly competitive decks that are just not seeing play, just for the simple fact that nobody's playing them. So that's my long way of saying that, like, Saronir to 1 is another blow to Dragon Link, but I still think that Dragon Link is a very good deck in its own right. So besides Branded Despia and Dragon Link, I'm trying to think of what else would really want to play Saronir. Saronir is kind of interesting in that it often is used as engine, right, as opposed to like Magnum HUD, and especially Jerusalem are more used as disruption. But I think this hit is like, I think it's fine. I don't really have strong feelings about the Bystials. I know some people love them, some people hate them. More people seem to hate them than love them. But I think it's fine for this card to be at 1. I think it would also be fine if it was still at 3. I don't think it's really super duper impactful either way, except for, again, Branded Despia going from a 60 card to a 40 card deck. Labyrinth Chandragolier to 2. Okay. Like, great. I don't know. Like, I don't know. There's, like, nothing to say about this hit, right? Like, it's not impactful. It's like the most minor consistency hit in the world, right? It's the same thing as like when Stovey went to 2. But at the same time, I don't think Stovey or Dragler necessarily even needed to go to 2. Like, I think that Labyrinth is totally fine in this meta. It was a tier 1 deck before. It kind of slid down to tier 2, but that's not because Stovey Torby went from 3 to 2. It's just because the deck, like, there was a natural shift in the meta, and the deck's relative power level to everything else is just not quite at tier 1 level. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Lab is, like, perfectly fine with nothing touched, but I said this during the Stovey Torby hit, and I'll say it here with Dragler going to 2 as well. I think the furniture could have totally stayed at 3. I think Ariana to 2. If you wanted to have an impactful, if you want to have a powerful consistency semi-limit hit, is what I was trying to say, then I think Ariana to 2 was the answer. But I don't think that needed to happen either. I don't know. The Labyrinth hits are so weird. Like, I think Stovey and Dragler to 2 is, like, fine, whatever. It doesn't really affect the deck that much at all. But in that regard, I don't think they were necessary. And then Conquistador to 3, fucking finally. Oh my god, this is a change that is quite literally 1 year too late. And I mean that too, because think about the entirety of the year of 2023. I could count the number of times I got queued against Eldritch on one hand in the entirety of the year of 2023. And around this time in 2023, we had already seen Eldritch kind of get ousted as the stun sort of engine or archetype, whatever you want to call it, of choice in favor of Runic, right? And I don't know, it's just like, again, this hit could have happened a year ago to this state, and it would have been 100% fine, and Eldritch still would have seen absolutely zero play. So, So there is our Forbidden Limited List change for the upcoming season. No hits to Super Heavy Samurai, which was pretty expected. I kind of thought Soul Piercer might go to 1, but that'll probably happen on the next list. As always ever, we gotta wait for the deck to get out of the selection pack, rather, to get out of the shop first. Once that happens, I'm sure we'll see Soul Piercer go to 1. I don't think Scarecrow's going to get banned. I think they're going to put Soul Piercer to 1, in my opinion. Which I do think is also the hit that probably should happen. I mean, I'd be fine with Scarecrow getting banned too, but I think Soul Piercer is 100% the problem when it comes to Super Heavy Samurai. So that's the only in-client notification we have to take a look at here, but it is definitely a pretty impactful one. Now, let's pop over to Master Duel meta, where we're going to start by talking about some of the leaks that have been posted to the site here for the upcoming 2nd year anniversary. A couple of Synchron cards. We got Revolution Synchron as well as Cosmic Quasar Dragon. Revolution Synchron is a pretty big one for Synchro-based decks in general, so naturally I am very much looking forward to this card. For those who aren't familiar, Revolution Synchron is a level 3 Earth Machine tuner that says if you Synchro Summon a Power Tool monster or a level 7 or 8 Dragon monster, this card in your hand can be used as a material. You can only use this effect of Revolution Synchron once per turn. If you control a level 7 or higher Synchro monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. Also, its level becomes 1. You can only use this effect of Revolution Synchron once per duel. So, tuners that can recur themselves from the graveyard, we know well by now that that's always pretty good for synchro strategies. This one can also be used from the hand for a level 7 or 8 dragon monster or a power tool monster, but so that's also pretty neat. And level 7 or 8 dragon monsters, when it comes to synchros, tend to be pretty good. But namely, this graveyard effect is so good. It's if you control any level 7 or higher synchro, period. So you don't have to have a level 7 or 8 dragon. That's only to use it as a material from hand. And on top of that, coming back as a level 1 is pretty relevant. Off the top of my head, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend really loves to be brought out with this, as well as a level 8 dragon synchro, such as possibly an Excel Synchro Stardust or something like that. Notably, I have plans to use Revolution Synchron in my latest version of Sprite Synchro. For those of you who missed the deck profile earlier this week at the time this video is going out, that I showed off a combo line that utilizes a level 3 Synchron monster off of Excel Synchron. Right now we're using Junk Synchron, but obviously Revolution Synchron is going to be much better for that when this card comes out. So I have plans to use this. I'm sure this card is abusable. And yeah, definitely super looking forward to it. Cosmic Quasar Dragon is going to be a light level 12 Dragon Synchro monster with 4,000 attack and defense. Requirements are 1 tuner Synchro monster and 2 or more non-tuner Synchro monsters, making it a quote-unquote Excel Synchro monster. Must first be Synchro summoned with the above materials. Once per turn, you can target face-up cards on the field up to the number of monsters used as Synchro material for this card, plus 1, negate their effects. This effect's activation and effects cannot be negated. Quick effect, you can banish this Synchro summoned card, special summon 1 Dragon Synchro monster from your extra deck that requires 2 or more non-tuner Synchro monsters as a material. This is treated as a Synchro summon. So this is pretty much just another big level 12 Excel Synchro monster to go into, right? In the same vein of like Cosmic Blazar Dragon and Shooting Quasar Dragon, indeed this one being Cosmic Quasar Dragon. So I think if you're already planning on making one of those monsters, it might not be a terrible idea to go into this first, because this can negate everything on the field before it quick effect banishes itself in order to go into, again, one of those big level 12 boss synchro monsters. But at the same time, it's like you could just summon out the Shooting Quasar Dragon or the Cosmic Blazar, whatever you're making as well. It's like, I don't know, these style of synchro decks that are trying to summon a big level 12 like Excel Synchro monster, I don't think another big level 12 Excel Synchro monster to summon is what they needed, right? Like, Shooting Quasar has already got the Omni on it. Like, you've already got good enough targets. I mean, to be fair, this one's not bad either, but I feel like this kind of strategy needs a consistency boost rather than another big monster to summon. But, you know, it's not bad by any means. I just don't think it's, like, super needed, but I digress. But yeah, those are the leaks that have been posted within the last week. Let's take a look at the official in-game usage and win rate report for the January 22nd update. So, Maxi Ash Blossom, I've said this the past couple of times, but this is not ever worth noting, to be honest. Like, ooh, Maxi jumped up. I mean, to be fair, like, you know, almost 4% is, for a lot of other cards, a pretty significant jump. But, I mean, Maxi and Ash Blossom are just always going to be the top 2 slots. And whatever amount between 90 and 95% Maxi hovers in between is mostly irrelevant. So, for 50+%, wow! This one is hugely relevant, however. Droll and Lockbird shooting up by, oh god, what is this, like 43.4%? Almost 50% jump in play rate. That's wild. Like, that's an insane jump. Now, obviously, it makes sense, right? Not only because of the main culprit, Super Heavy Samurai, but in general, pretty much ever since Cashier has come out, we've been in a Droll meta. Like Droll and Lockbird being good is not a new thing to Super Heavy Samurai coming out, right? We've been in a Droll meta, but it's been kind of a lighter Droll meta, where it's like, Droll is like an okay tech, but you still don't necessarily play it every single time, but now you definitely probably just play Droll every single time. Like, if your deck has the room for it, then I think it should pretty much always be playing at least 1, if not 2, if possible 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Not every deck should be on 3 Droll and Lockbird necessarily. It also can depend on, like, your deck's engine to disruption ratio and your consistency and all that fun stuff, but yeah, generally speaking, Droll went from a, this card is almost always good, kind of like Nibiru, to a, this card is always good, kind of a tech card for the format. Called by the Grave seeing a pretty significant drop in play rate, but I'm assuming that's because of Super Heavy Samurai. Obviously, the deck doesn't play Called by, so, yeah. It's pretty obvious why the card's win or play rate, however, is going down in that regard. Nibiru going up slightly. This one's not like the most significant change in the world, but Nibiru is like okay against Super Heavy Sam. It's actually not that great, to be honest, because they always go to make the Baron before they Pendulum Summon, so you'll never get to Nib after the Pendulum Summon. But of course, there are still a number of other decks that Nib is still very good against in this meta. I think in general, I've said this pretty much since the beginning of the channel, and I'll stand by this. If you're playing 3 Maxi, it's probably correct for you to play Nibiru as well pretty much every single time, unless your deck just absolutely does not have room for it. Because in my opinion, like, if you're playing a Maxi and you don't have an actual threat to go into, then you can get all the draws in the world, but your opponent's still just going to win the duel that turn, so. Also, I want to see something real quick. If they added the... No, we don't have, like, win rates at all. I really don't like the Master Duel meta report just stops talking about win rates at all. Like, now they're just not even mentioned, period. Anyway, whatever. Okay, for 40% plus, Zeus is about the same. Imperm is on the decline. That makes sense. It's down by like 10%, but we're in a meta where, like, none of the decks that are good right now are stopped by a single Imperm, right? Like, gone are the days where, oh, you know, if I'm up against Swords, so, like, an Imperm their Moye, and then they're done, and they can't do any more plays after that. Or, oh, if I'm against Branded, I can Imperm Albion or Lubellion, and then they're just done. They can't do anything after that. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, we're not in a meta where you can Imperm one single card, and then that deck is just done with the turn, right? Pretty much every meta deck right now can play through a single Imperm with relatively little trouble, either off of one extender or off of just their combo line in general. So, yeah, I just don't think that... I mean, Imperm is still obviously a great card, but not the best meta for it right now, that's for sure. The increase of Baron's play rate is probably due to Super Heavy Samurai. Crossout being on the decline, again, probably just due to Super Heavy Samurai. Baguska on the increase, again, probably just due to Super Heavy Sams. All these stats are pretty comparable too. Like, yeah, Crossout seeing about 10% less play. Like, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15. Called by seeing about 10% less play. Baguska seeing, well, closer to 15, but... you know, 10 to 15% more play. Baron seeing about 10% more play. The fact that these numbers are all pretty similar is what leads me to believe that it's probably just Super Heavy Samurai that's causing these particular fluctuations. Honestly, probably same with triple attack. Again, about 10% decline. Guess what deck is probably seeing at least 10% of, or making up about 10% of the ladder at least, and doesn't play spell or trap cards. Go figure. Wow, look at here. Gamma, Driver, both up by about 10%. Gosh, I sure wonder why. And then we have Excel and Ghost Ogre entering the 25% plus bracket. Again, Super Heavy Samurai. Got us seeing a slight decrease in play, but it's a pretty natural fluctuation, I think. So yeah, I think pretty much every single change to this is just about indicative of Super Heavy Samurai entering the meta. The Zeus is probably the only exception, which is also the most minor of the changes, only going up by 2%. So definitely makes sense why we're seeing the changes that we are seeing here. All right, so we have covered the ban list, we covered the leak, we covered the usage and win rate update. Let's go ahead and take a look at some tournament results from this past week. Starting off with the China Taiba Weekly number 71 with 90 players. Seeing a decent spread as far as what decks are doing well. Super Heavy Samurai did end up winning the whole thing. Wow, they're actually on the Coral too, the general Coral. I've talked about this before, but I've considered playing this myself just to have another 8 scale that's not the Big Abenki, or that's not the Wakashi rather. So that's neat. Oh, and look at that, they're actually on a couple of the Super Heavy Samurai synchros too. The Shanawa and the Susanoo. Oh, and they're on the main deck to Big Benki too. That's neat. This is definitely more of a Super Heavy Samurai deck. I mean, it's still got a lot of the same stuff in the end board, but nice to see them going out of the way to include more Super Heavy Samurai cards. Got 60 card Branded taking second. Again, I would expect that 60 card Branded probably not going to be as much of a thing once this card ends up going to 1 here. Vanquish Soul, yep, got that there. Dinos, we're seeing more and more dinos ever since the Transcendrake stuff came out. That's cool. That's really, really cool. Hey, look at that. We got another Evil Eye Gold Pride list. That's really cool. I wonder if that's the same player. Oh, you know what? I think I might have actually gone over this this breakdown already, didn't I? This looks really familiar. No, you know what? I know I posted this sprite variant to the Discord, but I don't think I actually talked about it in a video yet. But how cool is this? 60 card adventure sprite. It's running the Nimble mangas, but that's just for the Nimble package, which I guess is understandable over Sunfish. But yeah, look at this. It's got a mini vampire package with the retainer and the domination. It's got the dark beckoning beast. So cool. So cool to see sprites doing well. Oh, and Kashira too. Unicorns and everything, as well as Raidsoth, playing a mini little Kashira package there. Yeah, so I definitely looked over this on my own time, but we haven't covered it in the video, this particular tournament breakdown. A lot of interesting tech in these lists. Here we got Mathmech that's on backup secretary rather. This is a pretty neat extender, but at the same time, I'm looking at this and it's I don't know why you wouldn't just play the Gachiri at Ignister. It's got an easier requirement to fulfill, well, about the same, honestly. And it makes the monster unaffected. The level of 3 doesn't really seem to help here. I don't know, but definitely neat to see all the same. So yeah, this was a very, very cool tournament breakdown, what we got here. Again, just a ton of really, really neat stuff happening in the China meta there. All right, Master Cup number 28. 53-player tournaments. Got Branded taking first place with the Performer Pal 5 Rainbow Magician. If you see people teching this, it's for Super Heavy Samurai. In a tournament setting, particularly if it's, best of 3, then I think you can get away with teching. And also there's, there is a side deck here too. So, yeah, this can also be sided out. So, when you're in a best of 3 format where you can side out, I think you can get away with maining Performer Pal 5 Rainbow Magician against exactly Super Heavy Samurai. But if you're on a ranked ladder, don't put this card in your deck. Don't play side deck cards in best of 1 ranked ladder. We talked about this actually in a recent video on the channel. So, optimizing your deck for best of 1 ladder or best of 3 tournament. So definitely go check that out if you have not already. Got another 60 card Branded list here. Vanquish Soul coming in at 3rd/4th here, as well as Monadium too. Ooh, with a more extended Cashier package, I notice here. Got another Vanquish Soul list here. Labyrinth with, again, the 5 Rare Magician against... I mean, to be fair, it's better against stuff other than Super Heavy Samurai too, but let's be real. They're playing it because of Super Heavy Sams. Got another Math Mech list here. More Lab with the 5 Rainbow Magician. Alright, cool. Evil League, Season 9, week number 4. Another single limb, best of 3 with a side deck. And another branded list doing well here, taking first place. Not surprising, again, we talked about that in that video, about how branded plays better in best of 3. Math Mech being another one of those decks that can play fairly well in a best of 3. Notice a lot of these Math Mech lists are on the Firewall package, so it's cool to see. Sword Soul, still a very, very good deck. And, wow, Pearly Tier Limit. Again, Pearly is just one of those decks that I think people are, generally speaking, sleeping pretty hard on. Even as soon as regular Pearly and Delicious went to 2, even, I just stopped seeing Pearly on ladder altogether. And now I see it even less on ladder and in tournaments. But Pearly is still a good deck, by the way. Even without the Pearly Noir out. Which I'm going to call this, and I think I've even said this in a previous video or a stream, but I'm going to make a prediction here. Whenever we get Pearly Noir, the rank 2 Noir monster, it's going to come out, and when it comes out, people are going to be like, okay, now Pearly is good again. But Pearly is not going to be good again because of Pearly Noir. Pearly has just always been good. So, again, I'm calling it. I'm calling that people are going to say that. Calling that right here and now. Got another 60-card branded list with the Perform Power Rainbow 5 Magician. Again, they can get away with making this because it's best of 3 with side deck. Do not put this card in your deck for ladder. It's not good. Super Heavy Sam's here. Hey, Lemon. I recognize that name. Good player. Pretty standard Super Heavy Sam list with the Fenrir, the Cashier Fenrir here, as well as the, hey, they got the Soul Train, or the Soul Train. I didn't mean to call it that. I meant to say Steam Train, but you know what, sure, whatever, it's a Soul Train. They got the Soul Train as well as the Ballista package here as well. Got another Lab list, got another Monodium list. Yeah, cool stuff. Alright, this is the big one, Decade Meta Weekly number 96, 150 participants, single limb, best of 3, no side deck. And it looks like it was, to, I'm sure, no one's surprise, 60-card branded Despia that ended up taking it. You know, I will say, granted, I don't think that the Master Duel devs balance around best of 3 tournaments, although I think that is probably still a factor, at least somewhat. It'll be nice to see not so many branded decks in these tournament results. It's like, it's getting a little old, in my opinion, but... If you watch two more monsters than you do, since they only control... Oh, it's kind of like evenly matched, okay. But you're also playing... oh, no, it's Gozen match. Not evenly matched, but... Interesting lab list. It's more like lab stun here. Here's another Super Heavy Samurai list. More dinosaurs, again with the new Transcendrake stuff. Another lab with the Rainbow Magician. And Dinomorphia. As well as... Oh, this is Salamangreats. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. They got the Terratop package, and they're playing a Rescue Ace package as well. That's neat. Salamangreats are due for some support in the relatively near future, so definitely keep an eye on this deck for sure. And hey, look at that. We got another Pearly list again. Pearly is still a good deck. Pearly is absolutely still a good deck. Right now, right this moment, not when Pearly Noir comes out. Right now, Pearly is still a good deck, by the way. Ooh, Bestial Runic, love to see it. Oh, you know what? Sarnier going to 1 will actually impact this deck too, but not by as much as, like, Branded Despia by any means. So I think this will still be a deck, even with Sarnier at 1. Got an Naturia Runic, another Super Heavy Samurai, Adagnister. Always nice to see people respecting this deck and just bringing it because it's good. Another 60-card branded, another lab, another 60-card branded, and there we go. Decade Meta Weekly in the books there. Factory Cup Season 5, number 3. This one is going to have Branded Despia with Perform Power 5 Rainbow Magician. But again, 15-card side deck, best of 3. So that's why they can get away with playing this in their main. Ooh, look at this. It's Super Heavy Samurai Panda Magician. That's a cool variant. And Zephyr stuff, too. Neat. Hey, here's Rika's son Avalon. I found myself playing against, Rika's a lot in the new event, and I can't lie to you. I've always kind of had this feeling, but after playing against this deck a lot in the event, I'm extra not a fan of playing against this deck. I hate Rika Konkon. I'll just say, I hate this card. Like, it's one thing to have a custom card that helps do your deck what it's supposed to do, like Circular does for Math Mech, but, like, Rika is supposed to be all about tributing plants, and their custom card just kind of says, nah, you can just tribute your opponent's stuff instead. It's like, oh, okay. Sure, why not? Also being able to search spell and trap cards. This card's dumb, I hate it. I'm not a fan of Rika Konkon as in terms of card design, but yeah, whatever. Lily Clo, that's another name I see quite a bit on Super V Samurai here with the Scythe Lock. Another Perform a Pal deck doing pretty well here. Branded Despia, not 60 cards, but also playing Debisio Aliber and 3-Quim. This is kind of like... Is this Branded Synchro? Ah, this is Branded Synchro. I was going to say 3 of each of these would lead me to believe that there. Another Labyrinth with the 5 Rainbow Magicians. Got another Monodium. Monodium's been pretty consistently sneaking into the top cuts here. Hey, we got yet another China tournament. Looks like this one was won by Super Heavy Samurai. Fairly standard looking list there. 60 card Branded Despia yet again. Got another Attic Disser list. Always love to see that doing well. Another 60 card branded list. Vanquish Soul. We've got Tier Lament, Cash Share, actually. Not just the card, but the deck as a whole. It's a solid list. That's actually a really solid list. I like that list a lot. Math Mech, this time they were playing the Spirits. Definitely a solid package there. Here's our other Super V Samurai with the Scythe Lock this time. Alright, a couple more tournament lists to see. CS number 43 was won by Labyrinth. This one was single elim best of 1. Okay, so won by Lab. Wow, a lot of added Nisser lists this week. Always good to see that deck getting the proper due recognition. 60 card branded. Okay, they just submitted the top 3 decks there. And finally, the Cola Cup. 46 player tournament. Whoo! Won by Adventure Phantom Knight. We'd love to see this. I love this deck. I don't know what else I was going to say there. Maybe I want to try this particular list out, possibly as well. But again, another deck that like so slept on. This deck is actually just insane, by the way. Lab with the Perform Pal Rainbow 5. Again, we're side decking, so that makes sense to see that here. Note that in the best of 1 tournament, we didn't see the Perform Pal Rainbow 5 because it's best of 1 and no reason to tank your deck's consistency playing a card that's good against exactly 1 deck in best of 1. Got the 60 card branded with the Perform Pal 5. Orcust. Wow, this is like a pure Orcust list here, too. I mean, it's got a Cashier package of Unicorn, Spinner, and Raitsoth, and Birth, but other than that, it's a pretty pure Orcust deck. So that's cool to see. Alright, and there we have it. That is what has happened this week in Master Duel. So, what do you think of this new ban list? Definitely let me know in the comments below, as well as what you think of the leaks, the usage and win rate update, the tournament list, any of it. Always looking forward to hearing from you all there. That's going to go ahead and do it for this one. Let us now move on to the outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for support there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, Any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.